The story begins by introducing us to the world of Wise Loon. This is a place where both humans as well as demi-humans live with each other. We are then shown the Palace of Wisdom, which happens to be the top knowledge hub in the human kingdom of Alexa. Sadly, there are no home deliveries in this place as we see bandits attacking innocent people in full flow. Some religious men are getting targeted, so they wonder where the palace knights are to rescue them. It seems that these knights do not have the best reputation in this world, as the religious men curse them for being useless at such a crucial moment. They take a look at the flag being flaunted by the bandits and realize that it is of the mercenary group known as Irwin. This group is led by a dangerous demon girl named Merida, who also happens to be curvy and attractive. The Irwin group is the strongest and most evil mercenary group of the entire demon race, so it looks like these people are doomed. Suddenly, Merida notices a boy standing in the corner and doing nothing, so she gets interested. This boy is none other than our hero Albert, who for some reason has been kept as a prisoner. Merida confronts him, but in a friendly way, and confirms that he is indeed the treasured gem of wisdom. She says that he has a cute face and nice body, which means that Merida is no stranger to intrusive thoughts. As Albert wonders why he has been put in such a sensitive position in front of such a curvy babe, he tells Merida that he has been expecting her. Now, it's time for some backstory to understand our hero. In the kingdom of Alexa, Albert was appointed as the youngest priest ever. However, it turns out that he was reincarnated from another world, so he retains the memories of his past life from Japan. His name from his past life was Hayakuki Kotaro, and he had lost his life at the meager age of 32. Since Albert already had these many years of knowledge with him, it did not take long for him to be known as the treasured gem of wisdom over here. It turns out that when he got reincarnated, Albert was given a skill which could help him see the numerical potential of others, like a stat bar. This also includes the 3 main sizes of curvy babes. Due to this skill and his genius, Albert was quickly recognized by the king and became his favorite. However, his happy days met a swift end when he got punished for a grave offense that he had committed. This offense was committed towards a prince named Orgis, and the royal palace carried out the punishment immediately. Albert was quickly demoted to a trainee priest, and then he was told to carry out missionary work. Of course, our hero had no other choice but to accept this punishment, and then he was scolded heavily by the churchmen we had seen earlier getting attacked. Then we see Prince Orgis himself, who mocked our hero for being such a fool despite being known as the Gem of Wisdom. We also see his stats, which are not at all impressive, especially if you consider Sung Jin Woo as your standard. However, Orgis happens to be the first in line to the throne, and then we see Albert commenting on how terrible his stats are. We also learn that Orgis is known as the Foolish Prince, who only uses his name and authority to his undue advantage. Albert explains that the prince was known to corrupt the children of established lords, so that he could use them to kidnap cute girls from the countryside. These girls would then be pushed to work at shady places within the kingdom's capital. Around 6 months ago, one of Albert's slaves was about to be pushed into this horrible racket as well. Due to this, he tried to inform the king, but the head priest of the church tore up his appeal and informed Orgis about it. Of course, they took no responsibility for the whole thing, so now it does not feel so bad to have seen them getting attacked by Merida. The head priest even bribed the prince into sparing the church, which was a shady but wise move on his part. Orgis then asked Albert about his slave girl and where she was, because he had heard that she was both curvy and cute, a combination that is in high demand on comic guzzlers. Albert said that he had given her a few days off, so the prince became disappointed. He then told our hero to be careful during his missionary work, because the frontier he was being sent to was known for being attacked by bandits. The head priest continued to act like a suck-up to the prince, and then he told his men to keep Albert tied up. Now that we understand how our hero got here, it's time to go back to the present where he is in front of some massive pillows. Merida happens to have heard something from Albert's messenger, and this is why she has brought her army here to recruit him as her key strategist. Merida might be known as the most powerful demi-human warrior from the Demon Empire, but now she suddenly looks cute. Our hero takes a look at her stats, all of which are supreme level, but there are two stats that stand out the most. The first one is G-Cup, which is impressive in any universe, and the second one is that she is 18 years old. Keeping this in mind, Albert has no legal obligations towards us anymore and is free to engage in his intrusive thoughts. Of course, there are some weaknesses in her stats, such as intelligence and domestic affairs, but that is exactly where Albert will come in to help her. Merida wants to know what our hero is staring at, but he simply acts as if he is being taken as a prisoner. That shady face isn't fooling anyone though, so he explains to the demon girl that if she kidnaps him in front of everyone here, it means that he can leave freely without having to tie up any loose ends. Merida understands his strategy, so she picks up and prepares to leave, as she does not wish to engage with the human army right now. Albert continues to act as if he is being kidnapped, and then everyone escapes from the frontier. Now, we move to the mercenary group's base of operations where Albert is settling in. A girl calls out to him, and we learn that it is his slave girl, Liisa. She is wearing a rather outstanding maid outfit, so our hero asks her why she is dressed this way. She says that it is a way to keep him safe, and then we learn that she is the one who managed to arrange for Albert's escape by acting as his messenger for Merida. The maid girl thanks her lord for saving her life, because if he had not sent her away, then she would have been kidnapped into the massive racket that Prince Orgis is running. Her stats are also amazing as she possesses the powers of H-Cup, which is even better than Merida. The demon girl shows up and asks Albert if Liisa is looking good in a maid outfit, so it means she was the one who wanted to see Liisa this way. It looks like both Albert and Merida have the same tastes when it comes to women and their costumes, so they will most definitely get along well. Merida wants to get a bit too comfortable with Liisa, so Albert tells her to calm down as the maid girl is his confidant. The demon girl then says that our hero has no need to worry as she has not tried out Liisa just yet. This means that Merida is interested in cute girls and curvy babes, just like most men of culture. She then moves towards Albert and says that she would not mind trying him either, which means that she likes playing for both teams. She proceeds to throw him into the bed, and he gets a bit worried, although most men would jump into the bed themselves. Now, the demon girl says that she had originally intended to just use Albert for his wisdom, but she also likes the way he looks. On top of that, he also has a calm demeanor which makes him very mature for his age. The most important thing for Merida, though, is that Albert smells amazing, which is more than enough to awaken her inner beast. Liisa agrees with this sentiment, so it looks like Albert is going to experience the heaven that most men dream of. Merida proceeds to say that she deserves to sample Albert, and there will be no objections allowed. She also invites Liisa to join them, and she agrees instantly. Albert makes a face, so Merida asks him if he does not want this. Of course, he has probably been wanting this from the moment he was born, but he wants to know if Liisa is fine with it. The maid girl says that she wants to devote everything to her lord, so it is finally decided. And she is shocked that someone as young as Albert is so good when it comes to the... He tells her that he is a priest after all, and has knowledge about everything. There's also the fact that he has the knowledge he gained from his previous life as well. Merida does not agree with this, as she was thoroughly violated. so now she wants to return the favor in round 2. Albert will not give in so easily, which is why he says he needs some answers first. He confirms that Merida kidnapped him because she needed him for the Alancia Empire, and then asks why she was banished to the enemy country of Alexa. It turns out that Merida had almost ended the fiancé who was recommended to her by the Demon King. Albert is shocked to learn this, but Merida states that she did not like the way her fiancé looked, so she could not help her violent tendencies. Basically, he tried to touch her and she punched him really hard as a reflex action, which was more than enough to knock him out. Due to this, the head of the Irwin family, Merida's uncle, got angry and banished her to Alexa. Albert is still trying to wrap his head around this, but Merida flexes that the Demon King and she were like real siblings as they were brought up together. He might have tried to arrange her marriage with noble intentions, but he did not know her preferences, which led to this situation. This is enough information for our hero, as he now knows that Merida has a special connection with the Demon King, which means that the Irwin group is indeed as strong as the rumors suggested. This is enough for him to proceed with his initial plan. He goes on to ask Merida if she knows any trusted imperial noble who can mediate with the Demon King. She says that her sister's husband is a margrave called Stefan, but she is not sure what plan Albert has in mind. He goes on to whisper his plan into the demon girl's ears, and this is more than enough to convince her that he is on the right track. She calls it a wonderful plan and wishes to start the preparations immediately. In order to do that, Albert will need to write a letter, but there is something else on Merida's mind. He asks her what the issue is, and she says that she has decided something very important. Since she likes him so much, Merida wants our hero to support her as her husband, which is a pretty big step after just one session of shady activities. Albert is not too sure about this, because being the demon warrior's husband would be a bold step. However, Merida thinks that they are a perfect match for each other. She does have one condition though, which is that she wishes to have as many mistresses as she desires. This is a bit of a shock to our hero, because he was definitely not expecting such a request. Merida can't stop her intrusive thoughts when it comes to cute girls, so she needs to be with them whenever she wishes to. As far as men are concerned, she only needs Albert since he knows how to ring her bell in more ways than one. Basically, Merida is the female equivalent of a man of culture, as she cannot control herself around beautiful women. If this isn't good enough for him, then Merida also says that they can share these women with each other. This is probably the most generous thing any wife can offer her husband, so Albert asks her if she is sure about this. Merida says that she would never lie about such things, and they will only get freaky if these other girls are fine with it. Now, Albert has to show us that he's a serious hero, so he thinks about the benefits of this deal apart from the very obvious ones. As Merida's husband, he will be able to command a lot more authority as compared to being her subordinate, so that's also a bonus. If he can help the demon warrior girl return to her empire, then his grand plan will definitely be achieved. And yes, he finally admits that he adores Merida, and with all the access he'll get to curvy babes after their marriage, only a fool would say no. Albert then tells the demon princess that he will be more than happy to become her husband and offer his support. She is glad that he has made the right decision, and then even Liisa says that she can be of service to both Merida as well as her master Albert. It looks like the couple have already started building their harem, but as of now, both Merida and Liisa want to dominate Albert after all the unspeakable things he did to them in round 1. Our hero currently has post-walnut clarity, so he asks the girls to control their hormones at least till he finishes the letter. However, they do not listen to him, and it can be safely assumed that our hero won round 2 as well. 1 week later, Albert receives a reply to the letter he sent after round 2, and this prompts him to ask Merida to round up all their mercenaries. The preparations are complete, and our hero is raring to go now. We can see that the mercenaries are a rough bunch, so it is to be seen whether Albert can handle them or not. One of these fighters tells Albert that he looks like he's had a lot of fun the previous night. This should not come as a surprise to anyone, considering how skilled our hero is. But the fighter says that he's super jealous of Albert for living the dream life. Our hero simply asks if the fighters could hear him, his wife, and their mistress in bed, to which they say yes. He then jokes that Merida could not stop coming back for more, and even Alicia is quite the animal in bed. This is enough to get all the men laughing, although the maid girl is a bit embarrassed that her true desires have been leaked out in public. The mercenaries say that their Lord Albert is the only man who has been able to tame the demon princess, and they respect him for that, which means he has them under control. Of course, Merida does not appreciate being made fun of, so she scolds her men and says that Albert might be a lewd man, but he's also extremely smart. They apologize to her, but state that it's really hard for them to imagine someone like Merida to have fallen so hard for a human. Albert is just glad that these men don't hate him, and then he tells us that the bonds these mercenaries share is quite unique, probably due to Merida's charm. We see the demon princess knocking down a couple of her fighters out of shyness, but it's time to get down to business. The mercenaries ask if they will actually be able to return to Alancia if this plan works out, to which our hero shows proof of his concept. It's an approval by none other than the Demon King himself, which he was able to get thanks to Stefan mediating for him. Basically, they will need to take both the heads and territories of the 3 border lords on the side of Alexa. One of the mercenaries asks if it is as easy as it sounds, because the border lords would oppose the empire if they noticed this happening. Albert says that this would be probably if it were the imperial army led by the Demon King. However, they are simply a group of mercenaries on the field, so if they can destroy the lord's forces and allow the imperial army to take over their castles, then no one will be in a position to complain. It's time for us to go into some battle strategy now, as we learn that the 3 lords in question are of Zura, Zaisan, and Benia. These lords are known for looting their people with taxes, and also engaging in slave trade, so they aren't exactly angels from heaven. These lords also switch sides and betray others during war, so they are shunned even by the people of Alexa. Basically, getting rid of them is something that only the Irwin mercenary group will be able to do, and once this is achieved, then Merida can reclaim her status in her land. Albert's words rile up the soldiers, and they are now prepared to fight for their princess in order to restore her former glory. With that, Merida rides her horse and sets off with Albert and Alicia following after in the carriage. It's a rather interesting situation that our hero has found himself in, as he was once known as the treasure of wisdom in Alexa, but now he has turned the tables and sided with the demons to work with his demon wife. Now, we move to the Lord of Benia and his territory castle, which gets invaded by Merida and her men. The demon princess announces herself and states that she will be seizing the castle now. But of course, the knights say that they won't give in to bandits. Merida doesn't have time for false optimism, so she decides to slash the gates with her giant sword. She takes them down with ease, but even then, the delusional soldiers think that they will be safe from her if they stay in their current zone. However, these knights get smashed to a whole other level by the mercenaries, who spare no mercy at all in their attacks. Merida smiles cutely while saying she will destroy this castle and end everyone who is inside it right now. One of her men asks her if this really is the wise way to go, and it makes her realize that she is being a bit too extreme. Now, we move to a flashback a few days ago at the mercenary camp where our hero is explaining to his demon wife 3 very important rules that she will need to follow. The first rule is that she can't end any unarmed citizens. The second rule is that she should avoid any unnecessary property damage. And the final rule is that there will be no looting. The money from this raid will be distributed to all the common folk of the area. But Merida does not want to do something like this. She feels that looting and violence are all a part of war. But Albert says that her return to her empire will be impossible if she follows such vicious methods. The demon princess says that it will be difficult to get the others to follow these rules, as it's part of their nature to be violent. Our hero tells her that this time, the castle and all its inhabitants will be a gift to the Demon King. He then asks Merida if she would be happy to receive a broken gift, and it then makes sense to her. She still finds it difficult to accept, so Albert pulls out his ultimate trump card. He says that in addition to never being able to go back to her empire, Merida will also no longer receive his nighttime duties. This makes her upset because she craves for Albert's elephant, so she decides to follow his rules. Back to the present, she tells all her men to make sure they don't break any of Albert's rules. Otherwise, she will deal with them personally. The men do as their princess says, and they continue their assault in full flow. A lot of the knights drop their weapons and surrender, so Merida decides to spare their lives for now. Of course, if there is anyone who tries to resist, then there is only one option, which is to chop them down. The demon princess sets the example herself as she slashes her way through all the knights in impressive fashion. She is happy to see that some of the knights are still fighting, because it will satisfy her desire to end them. The problem for her, though, is that everyone over here is a weakling. Suddenly, a giant nightman shows up and tells Merida that she has been lucky to make it this far. He introduces himself as Bazam, the bear of the frontier, and he claims that he will be her demise. He feels that Merida has no chance against him, and even the soldiers behind him ask the bear to take it slow with her. He raises his sword and prepares to swing it hard as he believes he is going to slice the demon princess in half. However, she is able to block his attack with ease, and even manages to smile at him without flinching. As expected, Bazam is in shock, because he thought this attack would be more than enough to finish his opponent. She then proceeds to slash through his axe and then through his body. Bazam begs for mercy towards the end, but it is of no use as she slashes him into half with minimum effort. Merida laments that this bear was not even good enough to be considered a warm-up, and this display is good enough to get all the remaining knights to surrender. With that, the conquering of this castle is almost complete as the ones who have surrendered their weapons have been rounded up in the square. The only people left are the Lord and his family, who are barricaded inside the manor. Merida reaches the scene where we see the Lord getting served by his slaves. She breaks down the door abruptly to shock everyone, and the Lord asks who she is. Merida states that she will be seizing his castle from him, and her sword makes him panic like a little baby. He begs for mercy and even holds on to Merida's leg like a dog in heat. However, the demon princess does not like filth on her curvy body, so she kicks the Lord away in an instant. She says that she can't control her natural instinct to kick a fat, bald man and states that she will be taking his head now. The Lord gets furious and says that even if he has lost his castle, the forces at Zai-san and Zura will surely come for revenge. Merida simply smiles at his claims and says that she doubts such a thing would happen, especially because those castles have also fallen. She says that her darling husband is so good at strategy that he has already started the cleanup, and he will be here soon. Just as she says this, our hero shows up to confirm that the other castles have indeed fallen. Merida proudly shows him all the prisoners and valuables that she has collected so far, in order to impress him. Albert thanks her for her efforts and says that it's time for her to give a big speech now. She does not want to do it as she is shy, but her husband reminds her that it is necessary for the restoration of her reputation. She puts on a big, fake smile, and then she addresses the citizens of Benia. She says that they have finally been freed of the Lord who exploited them for so long, and it is all because of the Irwin mercenary group. She adds that all the wealth accumulated from this raid will be distributed amongst the common folk, as it is the wish of the Demon King. She then says that this area will now be governed by the Imperial Army, which means that it will be handled justly and without bias. Albert prompts everyone to cheer for the Demon King, which they do in unison. As everyone applauds Merida, the real mastermind of the plan, Albert comments on how he was able to turn so many people into Imperial loyalists without any cost to the Empire. They collect the wages for the soldiers, and the people of the land are simply happy to be given back the money that was taken from them. Now that the funds for governing the town are ready, our hero comments on how convenient the Irwin group has turned out to be for him, especially his demon wife, who is essentially like a cheat code with all the skills she has been blessed with. Now, it's Albert's turn to clean up after all the muscleheads put in the work. The same practices are used for the other two territories as well, and then we move forward 1 week. The Alancia Imperial Garrison can be seen in action as our hero and his team greet the Demon Lord's messenger. They are happy to see Margrave Stefan, who looks like the human version of Ninetails, and is also glad to see Merida once again in person. Albert can check out his stats, all of which are extremely impressive, especially his intelligence and leadership. Stefan tells Merida that her sister Leah is also joyous to hear about her return. But the demon princess says that all of this is because of her husband. Stefan takes a look at our hero and examines him while he tries to make an introduction. Stefan is surprised by Albert's stature, because he does not look like an alpha male. Plus, after what Merida did to the fiancé chosen for her, it's even more surprising to see she has chosen Albert for herself. Our hero takes his time to assess Stefan, because his stats are not just impressive, but also consistent. Stefan might have a friendly demeanor, but he does look like he's trying to work things out, which can be intimidating for a man like Albert. Merida tells her brother-in-law that Albert is amazing, and his plan has led to all the liberated citizens becoming Imperial territory. Stefan agrees that he could see a lot of happy locals on his way to meet the team over here, and he is also impressed to see how the surrounding areas are recovering from the bandit onslaughts. Stefan is so taken away by such a great strategy that he admits even he would not have been able to come up with it. He then asks Albert to come work for him, which obviously annoys Merida. Our hero does not know how to respond to this, but his demon wife does, so she tells Stefan to stay away from her husband. She does not care if he is her sister's husband, because Albert is way too valuable for her. Stefan simply says that he was joking around, and then our hero lauds him for being capable enough to push people to their limits. At the same time, he says that he is glad to be supporting such a curvy wife. With her, he can relax as much as he wants, but then he learns something rather troubling. Stefan says that Lord Preston will need to be persuaded by none other than Albert, which Merida agrees to. Our hero does not like the sound of this, because Lord Preston is not exactly the calmest man on the planet. He is the head of the Irwin family and also Merida's uncle, who was extremely upset because of her attacking her fiancé. The demon princess says that Lord Preston currently rules over Ash Ray, which used to be her territory. In order for her to return to her nobility, she will need to take Ash Ray back. However, this is a lot easier said than done, because Lord Preston is known as the Crimson Spear Demon on the battlefield. Merida adds that another one of his nicknames happens to be the Mad Dog of Irwin, which was given to him by his own allies. Even she does not stand a chance against him. And then Stefan says that Lord Preston has actually given the Demon King a run for his money as well. He also jokes that as long as they have the strategist Albert on their side, it should not be an issue to persuade Lord Preston. Our hero figures that this was the main plan all along, and he has been somewhat played. Merida realizes that she had hidden this from her husband, so she promises that if he is able to persuade her uncle, then she will put on certain attire that Albert wishes to see her in. It's embarrassing for her to say this, but Albert jokes that his dream is to live with his beautiful wife, have his own territory, and be surrounded by even more cute and curvy girls. Merida is getting teased a lot, so Albert eventually agrees to act as an envoy and convince Lord Preston to give her back Ash Ray. Merida can now breathe a sigh of relief, but she ends up suffocating her husband with her own massive pillows in the process. It's actually not a bad way to go, but there's more to this story, so we carry on. Meanwhile, at the Orgis residence in Alexa, we can see that the mood is very different. Prince Orgis is furious because of how our hero has bested him in the most discreet manner possible. His followers ask him what's the matter, and he says that it's all because of the young priest. The followers are shocked because Orgis reveals the king will soon find out about their rackets if things continue the way they currently are going. Basically, while all of this was going on with the three lords, Albert also made sure to send a letter to the king, accusing Orgis and his men of their atrocious crimes. The reason they could not pick up on this one was because it was addressed to Orgis' brother and not him. The brother, Goran, is actually second in line to the throne, so it could mess things up for Orgis if he were to be favored after this scandal breaks out. Orgis says that they will need to act fast before Goran goes ahead and informs their father about this. The followers say that they will head back to their territories and dispose of any evidence that may implicate them. However, Orgis calls them fools because their territories have already been seized. The followers are shocked to hear this, but Orgis has realized that these attacks have a lot to do with Merida and her gang as well. The prince says that his followers are just a liability now, and will be dealt with accordingly. At that very moment, some knights show up and hold knives to the necks of his followers. They plead for mercy, but it's of no use as Orgis orders his guards to lay all the blame of his racket onto his followers. He believes he has gotten himself out of a pickle now, but he will still need to lay low for a while because of Albert. He then decides to put a bounty on Albert, and he promises not to leave our hero alive. Now, we move back to Merida, who is having an intense session with Liisa that cannot be described by innocent words. Liisa has been put under strict orders from her Lord Albert to treat Merida's kitty nicely. She then looks Merida in the eye and asks her not to forget her favorite maid girl while she's away. For now, she will continue to treat Merida's kitty to the best of her ability. Meanwhile, Albert has found his way into Lord Preston's castle, and he bows down to greet him. Preston refers to our hero as the child who claims to be the husband of that foolish girl. Preston then tells Albert that he not only managed to deceive the demon princess into becoming his wife, he also snuck her back into the Empire and now wishes to relieve the Crimson Spear demon of his duties. Albert confirms all of this, but states that he also has something which he would like to discuss with his demon wife's uncle. Our hero tries to stand up, but it's of no use as Preston tells him to stay where he is, and even proceeds to threaten him with his spear. He was so fast that Albert couldn't even see him moving, which is why he needs to be careful moving forward. Our hero then says that if Preston allows him to assume command, then he will raise the Irwin family to the highest level of nobility. Of course, Preston thinks that these are just fancy words, and he does not trust such a skinny human to accomplish anything. Albert instantly responds by saying he will be able to curb Merida's wild streak. Next, he will also take care of all the domestic, foreign and intelligence affairs of the territory. Basically, this will free Preston from the troubles of running an empire all by himself. If Albert were to assume control, then both Lord Preston and Merida will be able to keep their focus firmly on the battlefield and nowhere else. Our hero wishes to turn them into the greatest generals this world has ever known, and this makes Preston pause for a moment. He eventually grins and says that he would not expect anything less from the man who was able to tame Merida. It's exactly what he needs as well, because he is sick and tired of having to do managerial work. Being a lord does not suit him at all, and he is much better off fighting the enemy. Lord Preston ends the chat by saying if Albert is able to keep Merida in check, then he will be more than happy to surrender his spot to him. Albert says he can stake his life on it, and now the men can shift to a more casual tone of conversation. Preston asks our hero what he thinks of his crazy demon wife because she is a selfish girl in general. However, she has a lot of potential, and Preston does not want to see it go to waste. Albert needs more context, so he asks if Merida is hated within the Empire, to which Preston says that every single retainer hates her. After all, the demon princess is like a goddess of war, but it's her curvy body that makes all the men go soft on her, but not in a biological way. Since Preston is her uncle, he is the only one who is strict with her, but he hopes this will end now with Albert taking over. Our hero humbly accepts his new challenge, and Lord Preston says it's time to celebrate a new era. He has already sent a very fast horse to go collect Merida, so it won't be long before she gets here. Albert is surprised to hear this, but the party is just getting started. A little while later, we can see our hero dining with his wife while all the other royal subjects are also enjoying a feast. Merida wants more booze because her husband's cup is empty, but maybe she is the one who needs to take it easy for now. Albert says that he might be at his limit, but Lord Preston is not going to go easy on him at all. He pours more sake for Albert, and then we see a curvy babe approaching him. She is glad to see the man who was able to steal Merida's heart, and with her is a flat woman who wonders how such a skinny man could land a babe like Merida. Albert does not know who these women are, so Preston introduces them as his wife Freya, and in a shocking twist, his son, Rattor. Rattor is actually a man who looks and exhibits the sass of a girl, but Albert is not here to judge anyone, so he thanks both Freya and Rattor for their hospitality. Rattor tells him not to address him with so much respect, because they are pretty much the same age. Now that the alcohol is flowing, it's time to get started, but our hero wonders what else is there to start other than the end. Merida seems to know what's going on, and Rattor states that it's time for the Demon Tribe Strength competition to begin. The star of the show today is none other than our hero Albert, although he has no idea what he is getting dragged into right now. He panics and says that he was not told about any kind of strength competition, so he is not prepared for it at all. Rattor says that anyone who gets married into the demon tribe gets to choose the kind of fight they would like to get into, so it's not like Albert is being forced into something that is out of his league. Basically, it's all a part of tradition for the demon tribe to show strength in conflict, but Albert is not too sure about this, so he turns to Merida to ask her for confirmation. She tells him not to worry about it, as it is just a formality, and he will not be ended. Essentially, the demon tribe values strength over everything else, so this kind of tradition is important to them. Of course, there has to be a downside to this, so Albert asks what will happen if he is not able to win with his strength. Merida states that it means nobody will ever listen to him, and while she says it casually, the overall impact is actually quite serious for our hero. As a military strategist, this could be the difference between life and death for him. But the demon princess smiles away and says that she already knows how amazing her husband is. She says that even if Albert were to lose, she will find a way to convince everyone of how great he is. This is not at all reassuring for our hero, but Rattor does not have all day to waste over here. He wants Albert to choose his preferred type of battle right now, so he decides to use his big brain energy. After confirming that he can choose literally any kind of battle format, Albert comes up with a fight that he will be sure to win, no matter what may happen. We then see a sheet of paper being presented to the participants, but Rattor has no idea what's going on. Alicia the maid is serving the papers to everyone because Albert is engaging in a writing contest with Rattor. The feminine son has his doubts, but Albert states once again that he could choose whatever format he desired. The pen is the way for him in multiple aspects of life, so it was only appropriate for him to choose this contest. Merida shouts that demons do not tell lies, so they have to accept her husband's challenge, no matter what. However, she wants to know why she is also being made to be part of this, but then she gets taunted for being a quitter. This spurs her on, and she tells Lord Preston that there is no way the demons will shy away from a writing contest. We can see even Preston having difficulties, but he is not the type to turn away from a challenge, so he does what he can. Rattor, on the other hand, is holding pens as if they are chopsticks, and can't understand why his hands are trembling. Alicia does her thing in her maid outfit to win all our hearts, and she also flashes the sign with the topic for everyone to write on. All the demons face a really uphill challenge as they are not able to command the pen the same way as they command a sword. This is quite strange because normally, the demon tribe is excellent when it comes to drawing out maps and other such items. However, when they get presented with something out of the norm, it's almost as if they have been asked to do the impossible. Alicia turns the contest into a reality show as she announces the updates one after the other, while the remaining demons watch on in anticipation. It looks like Albert has taken the lead, and he is completing his tasks with ease, whereas his competition is dropping out of the race. Merida can't take this anymore, and she apologizes to Albert for making him deal with Lord Preston. It's become so tough for her that she feels as if the walls are closing in on her. Even the great Lord Preston himself is admitting defeat as he feels like he is losing his sense of vision. By the end of it all, we see the demons fallen on the ground having quite evidently lost, while Albert emerges as the unanimous victor. After claiming such a generous victory, Albert decided to win over the entire demon tribe by writing quotes for them. He ends up providing a ridiculous amount of 700 quotes all within an hour. It's great to see our hero dominating demons with the power of his mind, and later, we see Rattor scolding his dad for being a useless old man. Preston is not going to just stand there and take the insults, so he fires one back at his son. As they continue to fight, they hear someone coming in, and they ask what's the matter. It's just Albert, who looks like even he is enjoying the high spirits. Rattor starts to blame his father for something, and Preston fires the same accusation back at his son. Albert does not care about who started the whole thing, as fighting within the castle is forbidden. It is also quite dangerous for someone like Preston to be fighting his own blood in the castle. Both Rattor and Preston have realized that they are going to be punished for this, so they beg Albert not to send them to the personal reflection room. Basically, this room was made as part of the several rules and regulations Albert had come up with to rule his new empire. Anyone who broke the rules, such as fighting within the castle, would be sent to this room, no matter who they were. The personal reflection room has no windows, and the people sent there need to sit upright and write the words, "I will act thoughtfully." This is actually no big deal for a normal human, but when it came to the demons, they feared this greatly. Now, both father and son continue to ask for mercy, so our hero tells Preston to repair the wall, and Rattor to go and help tend to the farm. Both the demon men listen to him like loyal puppies, and it pleases Albert as he has made this tribe succumb to his rules, even though they are known for their strength. The next thing on Albert's wish list is the territory management plan. Basically, this is his method of utilizing Ashray Castle as a trade hub to make money. Not only do merchants pass by this castle a lot, there is an extremely fertile grain land up north as well. The castle is also a critical defense point, which is why the Irwin family was given this section even though they are technically a low-ranking bunch. After all, no one can match them when it comes to their combat abilities. Usually, in times of peace, this is a very easy area to manage, which is why our hero took up the management job instantly. However, there was no system in place to manage the finances of the castle. As a matter of fact, Preston doesn't even know what a revenue tax ledger is. Albert prays that Preston has kept these documents somewhere because he has been managing this area up till now. It turns out that the Crimson-Speared Demon would simply allow the village chief and the merchants to store things in the safes and warehouses as they pleased. By doing this, he was allowed to collect taxes during wars if there was a shortage. Albert looks worried, but then Preston hands over some documents to him. At first, our hero is happy as he believes these are ledgers. However, it only turns out to be an inventory list of military supplies. Albert quickly figures that he should not have expected any kind of admin skills from the demon tribe, and he will need to prepare the books all by himself. He asks for the treasury, and Preston says it's in the central underground section of the castle. He does mention that due to the lavish party they had earlier and other expenses this year, the supply may be low. Albert says that there was the reward for capturing the frontier towns, so there's no need to worry about finances. R heads to the treasury and gets it opened up by the guards, but to his shock and dismay, it is absolutely empty. Things are most definitely not going as our hero would have wanted, so he will need to improvise now. Later in the castle, we see Merida using all of her demon skills to stamp a piece of paper. She asks her hubby how she did, and he takes a look. He notices that the stamp is a little crooked, but it will do for now. The demon princess is glad to hear this, so she asks if she can go train now, but Albert tells her that she will need to come back again tomorrow to stamp some more papers. Merida does not like the sound of this, so she asks Albert why she is needed if he had said he would handle all of the paperwork. He explains that stamping the seals is the duty of the head of the castle, which is a law. Our hero has no interest in getting arrested, so Merida will need to do as he says. There are mountains of sheets to go through, and talk about all of this only makes the demon princess a lot more anxious. She scolds Albert for always making her do things that make her suffer, but he jokes by saying it's the highlight of his day to see her this way. Merida also teases him a bit before leaving the room to go for training. Our hero tells his demon wife to be home before dinner, and then Alicia comes in to serve some tea. The maid girl comments that her mistress Merida has a very alluring face, and Albert knows exactly what she means by this. Now, Alicia asks her master how the financial situation is of the castle, and he says that the treasury is empty, but that's not all. The castle actually owes 49,000 gold coins as well, which is a massive sum of money. Alicia wants to know what has caused this mess, and our hero responds by saying it's all due to sloppy management and a whole bunch of useless retainers. To understand this further, he explains how a baron's household usually has around 50 people. In the case of the Irwin household, there is a ridiculous number of 200 people. Nearly all of these people are military staff who are paid anywhere between 3 gold coins to 15 gold coins per month, based on their position. The problem is that most of these people are actually needed to protect the locations near the castle. This territory was given to them in order to maintain proximity, but it's still a huge financial hole. Luckily, they now have 5,000 gold coins from their earlier frontier mission, so there is some cash in the castle. Albert knows that he will have to run a tight ship when it comes to managing the financial affairs of this land. However, this is going to be so exhausting that he might just collapse from all the work he will need to put in. Liisa feels bad for her master and wishes that she could be of more use to him, but he says that she is already doing a fine job in forming an information network. After getting done with some paperwork, our hero visits the castle's food warehouse and is shocked to see the amount of food on display. The warehouse manager says that they have such a strong supply because there have not been any wars recently. It is due to this excess supply that some of the food items have already started to spoil, which means that something will need to be done immediately to avoid wastage. Albert asks this man if he is the only one managing this warehouse, and he says that he has been entrusted with this supply by the various village chiefs. The demon tribe only uses this stock in times of need, but there has to be a better way to use it. Albert brings out his stat bar and notices this man's name is Melvis. His admin skills are through the roof, so he feels that Melvis is being wasted in the warehouse. Albert asks him what he feels should be the top priority for the Elwyn household, but he is hesitant to answer because of his standing. Albert tells him to speak freely, so Melvis states that the main priority should be to maintain the ledgers. Reducing wastage would also be great, because this is a rich territory and can be used to the Elwyn family's advantage. Our hero is glad to see that he and Melvis are on the same page, so he asks him if he would like to become the administrator of the Elwyn family. Melvis is honored to be presented with such an opportunity, but he does not know if he should take up a role as important with this one. Albert reassures him that he has control over all the internal affairs, so approvals won't be hard to come by. He also offers to pay Melvis an additional salary as admin on top of what he is making as a warehouse manager. Melvis can't believe he will have the chance to make so much money, but Albert reminds him that the work will not be easy at all. Melvis understands the assignment and bows down to our hero as his new underling. Now, Albert asks him if he has any buyers for all the useless stock they have in the warehouse. He says that he will contact all of the merchants in town as soon as possible, but he will need the pricing of the stock as well. Albert says he will give him the pricing tomorrow itself, which is actually hard to believe for Melvis. Albert admits that one day to transport all the items in the warehouse might seem impossible, but he does have a plan in mind. The next day, we see Liisa in her cute maid outfit getting the demon tribe ready for their latest task. The idea is to have all the demons transport the goods out of the warehouse, and whoever does it the fastest will get to be the vanguard in the next battle. This pumps all of them, especially Merida, Preston, and Rattor. Albert manages to arrange the destinations as per colored cloth, so that he will be able to distinguish the stock as well. The demons are told not to mix up the colors, otherwise Merida will deal them accordingly, so they carry out their tasks perfectly. Melvis can't believe that our hero has managed to clear out the warehouse by simply using the guise of training. Rattor thinks that his squad is in the lead, but he is shocked to see how far ahead Preston and Merida are. The demons remain competitive as each of them believes they have won, but Liisa tells everyone to relax with some food and drinks till they finish counting the boxes. Melvis is still in disbelief over what he has just seen. Now that Albert and Melvin have decided to get to work, they start analyzing the food to identify which sections are spoiled. The preserved food, which was slightly damaged, would be sold at a cheaper price, whereas the completely spoiled food was given off to farmers as fertilizer. In the middle of all this, there was a wine merchant who dropped by out of interest. His name is Fran, and he happens to be 45 years old, but his standing was strong, which was why our hero decided to give him a discount. This allowed Fran to establish a good relationship with Albert, and since Fran's company was nicknamed the convenience store of the battlefield, it made sense to have him as a buddy. Eventually, the Empire manages to sell 3,000 gold coins worth of food and drinks. Melvin coming to the fore has also helped with sorting out the accounts with additional staff. Everything seems to be going well, but Albert is still facing problems because he needs a secretary to manage his busy schedule. Alicia is already handling a variety of roles, so she is definitely capable, but the problem is that she is unable to read or write because she is a commoner. This is when Albert's intrusive thoughts kick in again, as he wishes for a cute and curvy blonde from the educated class who could become his secretary. Of course, our hero realizes that his unholy thoughts will not solve anything, so he needs to go to the Merchants Guild to solve yet another pressing matter. He eventually goes to meet the Merchant Guild leader Renville, who is nearing 50 years of age. He welcomes Albert to the guild and states that the standard units of measurement for lengths and weights have been inconsistent due to the coming and going of various merchants. This issue has been causing disputes for a while, so Albert tells Renville he has just the thing for him. It happens to be measuring equipment which can be used as the official standard since they have the Elwyn family crest on them. The standards were established while consulting Merida herself, so Albert tells Renville to make more of these tools so that they can be sold and circulated throughout the guild. Our hero smiles and says that if his system finds any transactions happening without the usage of these tools, then Renville will be in for a world of hurt. The guild leader can't believe that Albert has already thought so far ahead despite having just come to the scene. He is glad that our hero has given him a perfect solution, and he promises to circulate it throughout the entire guild. This is amazing because it will solve all the current disputes in the guild, so Renville tells his daughter Irina to serve a drink to Albert. At first, our hero says a drink won't be necessary, but once he gets a look at Irina and her massive pillows, he quickly rethinks his decision. Our hero is immediately blown away by her cute looks and curvy body, so he asks Renville about her. We can see that Irina is well above Drake's threshold at 21 years old, so she is safe from all angles. She has great stats that are even better than Renville, so Albert considers getting her on board as well. Of course, the pillows are the primary motivation for him, and then Renville asks him what he thinks. Naturally, our hero worries that the father has caught him in the middle of some intrusive thoughts, but then Renville says that he wants Irina to get hired. Since she is talented and capable, he feels she would be a great fit for our hero, but he clearly does not realize that Albert would like to fit something else into Irina as well. Our hero reveals that he is in need of a personal assistant, but he is not sure if it is okay to take the Merchant Guild leader's daughter for this role. Renville doesn't seem to have any problem with this because Irina also fits with Merida's preferences. Now, it's time to hear Iriana's opinion, and she states that it would be an honor for her family if she could serve the demon princess and her husband. She also seems to know that Albert values competent staff while also valuing women, and the best part is that she is already aware of his shady intentions. Irina has no problems with becoming our hero's slave girl while also working for him and the Empire. Albert is glad that Irina has already done her homework on him, so he hires her instantly. Of course, he wonders if it is fine for him to choose a new slave girl without asking Merida, but it looks like the demon princess is more than happy with her husband's new recruit. Merida makes Irina change into some alluring attire, and she wants her to maintain this outfit while performing her duties of the night. Albert is glad that his wife shares the same taste in women as he does, and then Irina tells Merida that this is her first time doing something so shady. She requires guidance on such duties, and Merida will gladly assist her without hesitation. The shady acts begin, and even Alicia is told to join in on the fun. As expected, there are tons of unspeakable acts being performed, and Irina gets overwhelmed quite easily. Merida comments that the new secretary has a lot of potential for long-term service, and now that she has gotten Irina ready, it's time for Albert to partake as well. our hero is happy to get his chance now because he was getting a little impatient with the wonderful view of Merida, Alicia, and Irina. The girls get together to guide Irina through this, and what follows is easily amongst the top 5 shady acts on Comic Guzzlers. After multiple explosions and waterfalls, we move to the next day where decency returns to our vision. Irina is seen giving some papers to Albert which he had requested, and he is happy to see her being diligent with her job. Irina's uniform also seems to be on point, and Merida comments on how attractive she finds it. Albert reminds his wife that Irina is his secretary during the day, so she will need to behave herself for now, otherwise no work will ever get done. The demon princess heads off to train and says that she is looking forward to another evening of debauchery and hedonism. Now, our hero notes that all the measuring instruments seem to be in order because the Castletown's businesses have already started using them. Of course, since everyone here respects the demon tribe, there is no scope for confusion or rebellion. The Elwyn family seal does seem to command respect, and with Renville also keeping a close tab on the transactions, Albert wonders if he can use this system to solve the tax problems of the nation. After all, the locals have not been too good with collecting taxes, although people do pay them when they are asked for it. Of course, this only allows the rich to pile up their own wealth, and in turn, this made the village chiefs quite popular and powerful. However, in times of war, if there is a disagreement on the taxes to be paid, the village chiefs may just start an uprising to rebel against them. On top of that, Albert has found out from his sources that skirmishes at the border are increasing in frequency. This may lead to a war between the Alexa Kingdom and Lord Stefan's territory soon. Keeping this in mind, Albert would like to stabilize the internal affairs as soon as possible. That's when he realizes he can use the carrot and stick method, and in this case, he can use the biggest stick available. Now, our hero visits the Northern Territory's village chief and has a word with him about the newly established measuring equipment. The village chief says that while he and his people have abandoned the previous tax rules, for them to suddenly adapt to these new tools is a bit difficult. Albert says that he too serves the same demon tribe, so he can understand the difficulties of implementing such a system. He then says that he and Merida have decided to overlook certain crimes the village chief was engaging in before, so that they can have him accommodate to the new rules. The chief is shocked to see how our hero was able to identify the bribes he was collecting during the wartime, but Albert tells him he understands such things were necessary to prevent famine and other disasters. Now, Albert gives the village chief a job description, looking for able people over the age of 15 who can read and write. He then says that he will give preference to the sons and daughters of the chief, so that he can gain more staff members who won't dare to rebel against him. The village chief comments that our hero is indeed very thorough, and all the rumors he had heard of how Albert was able to tame the demon princess were indeed true. At the same time, he believes that he will be able to deceive Albert because he is still just a young boy. Of course, our hero knows exactly what kind of person the chief is, so he tells him that there is one major problem. He was able to get Merida to agree to his terms, but he could not calm down someone else. At this very moment, an angry Preston storms into the house and breaks open the door with rage. He looks at the chief and angrily states that he was deceiving him this whole time. Naturally, this is not a reassuring sight to the chief, and Albert enjoys the moment, even telling Preston that he had asked him to wait in the carriage. Now, Preston looks at the chief with an evil smile and says that he knows this village always brings a good harvest. Due to this, he has come here for a random tax collection. He then tells the chief that he should not have a problem with this at all, and if he does, then they can talk it out like men. Nobody in their right mind is going to oppose Preston, so the chief gets down to his duties right away. Preston reminds the chief that he has the tendency to break the necks of people who deceive him, and this puts the fear of God into the deceitful oldie. Preston doesn't want to stop here, so he continues to taunt the village chief, but then Albert tells him to take it easy and leave things as they are. The chief hides behind Albert and wonders why this is happening to him if he was told his past crimes have been excused. That's when our hero tells him that he and Merida have overlooked them, but not Preston because he hates liars and cheaters. The village chief asks what he should do now, so Albert takes this chance to ask him for his entire ledger. This makes the chief panic even more, so our hero taunts him by asking if he even has one. After all, when it's time for his son to replace him, there should be the correct documentation in place to catch him up to speed on all the finances of his village. The village chief is still a bit hesitant because all his dirty secrets will be revealed, but then Preston asks him if he doesn't want to show his ledger. The chief is scared to his bones, so he brings the ledger immediately. This routine continues for the other chiefs as well, and it only takes a week for Albert to have gained the ledgers of all the villages in his empire. Irina is not surprised at all that her master lover was able to get the job done, but our hero simply says that he asked the chiefs nicely, and they handed everything over. Of course, Irina knows that Preston was utilized for the tough ones, but Albert states that he also granted the chiefs immunity from inheritance tax if they complied without delay. Now, the chiefs actually need to work for their living, and if there is any hatred from the public, it will be directed towards them. Irina also realizes that hiring the chief's kids makes them like hostages, and Albert is pleased that his secretary is quick to grasp these things. Our hero knows that there is no chance for an internal uprising because of the famous battle skills of the Elwyn family, but preventive measures also need to be taken. It looks like Albert has everything sorted out, but he clearly seems to have much bigger plans moving forward. What is his end goal? Does he want an unlimited harem? Or does he want to surpass the demon lord? With so many proceedings being discussed, it's natural for our hero Albert to take a look at the books. It should not come as a surprise that all the villagers had reported less than half their income in order to avoid paying taxes. Melvin was able to scoop this out just like a good accountant, and it goes on to show that people will never change regardless of the era. These underpaid taxes now get handed over to the demon tribe in full and without any delays, because nobody will dare to mess with the new order established by our hero. Thanks to this, the Elwyn family can finally breathe a sigh of relief when it comes to the finances. Due to this amazing achievement, Melvis is given the nickname Lord of the Ledgers, especially due to his ability to work 24 hours a day. In no time, he becomes the chief officer of internal affairs and now deals with all financial matters. After running through the populations of the various areas under his control, Albert tells us that he has a total of just under 16,000 people who are paying taxes. On top of that, there's a lot of fertile soil just lying around waiting to be cultivated. If everything continues to work in Albert's favor, then his dream of hitting a target population of 50,000 will very soon become a reality. Harvest season is just around the corner, and our hero is sure that it will be a big one. With the number of peasants who can be turned into soldiers being roughly 20,000, there's a lot of scope for him to make an unbeatable army. All of this makes Albert excited, but then his maid Alicia shows up and tells him that Lady Merida is calling for him. Of course, this can only mean one thing, which is that it's time for a shady session. Albert enjoys some heaven on earth with Merida, Alicia, and Irina, thus making all the viewers wish it was them, not him. Our hero is glad that he continues to win all the night battles, even with 3 super curvy babes at his service. Plus, he would like to enjoy these moments for now, as war season is going to begin soon. After this heavenly session is over, someone comes to the castle to alert Albert about something important. It's a report from the imperial capital, so it must not be taken lightly. As it turns out, Lord Stefan's territory has been attacked, so they have requested for immediate reinforcements. Albert finds this a bit odd because harvest season isn't even over yet, so it's a bit soon for any attacks to happen. In order to understand this, we will need to go back in time by a few weeks. We are taken to the kingdom of Alexa at the Orgis mansion. Here, the Prime Minister Zahn tells his liege that the kingdom's army has been dispatched. However, Prince Orgis is not at all happy about the fact that it took several months just to mobilize an army of 5,000 soldiers. Zahn tries to calm him down by saying the other local lords were resistant to offer support due to exhaustion from continuous wars. This does not have the effect he desires, because Orgis simply calls those lords useless. Anyway, as long as Orgis can reclaim the 3 territories back from the Empire during this operation, he is sure to gain favor with the king. Zahn tries to butter up Orgis some more by saying he should lead the army as the supreme commander, which means going to Tiana in order to take command of the soldiers. Of course, there's no way someone like Orgis is going to a battlefield, and he makes this very clear to Zahn. The Prime Minister is a bit confused because there had to be a reason for Orgis wanting to become the supreme commander. However, the lazy prince simply tells Zahn to go to Tiana in his place. Naturally, this does not make any sense to the Prime Minister, but Orgis says that he will relay orders while sitting comfortably here. He orders Zahn to go and invade the Empire immediately, but Zahn says it's still harvest season. The brat prince is not in the mood to have a logical discussion, so he throws his glass at the Prime Minister and tells him to get working immediately. With nothing else to offer, Zahn has to do as Orgis says. The brat prince laments that all his people are useless, and he would prefer if they used their own brains rather than relying on him for constant instructions. The main reason Orgis is so stressed right now is because of the letter that Albert had sent earlier. If it weren't for that, then he would not have in such a situation right now. Orgis is aware that he will need to be patient for a month because if he can reclaim the territories of Zura, Benia, and Zaisan, then all will be well. However, he will not know peace until he figures out the location of Albert, as he will definitely be the biggest obstacle in his path. The job won't be done there either, as Orgis will then need to track down his brother Goran too. The end goal for him is to assassinate both Albert and Goran, because they are his main obstacles. Now, it's all about playing the waiting game, and Orgis will only act once his army returns. Now, it's time to spring back into the present where we see Merida and Albert organizing their troops. Everyone is pumped to fight, but Albert is panicking because his prediction was completely off over here. He had already started gathering crucial intel for the upcoming war, but to fight during the harvest season, that too with the enemy's supreme commander still in the capital, was not something our hero had anticipated. The enemy numbers are around 5,000, while Stefan's forces are around 3,000, so Albert's and Merida's army will be able to pull off a solid defense. But with the harvest season still ongoing, they are heavily underprepared for a fight of this scale. If Orgis and his men pull off the surprise attack and reclaim the territories, then all of Albert's hard work till now will completely go to waste, especially the trust he had built with all his accomplices. There's also the fact that the newer territories may be treated harshly for conceding to Albert in the first place. Our hero laments that Orgis may have gained the upper hand on him once again, but there is no way for him to get a red on that shameless fool. Lady Merida can see her husband is under some kind of stress, so she asks if everything is fine. He tells her that he was just going over some strategies, but Merida is not concerned about that at all. As a matter of fact, she has been waiting for this day to come for a while. The only problem is that it will take a few days to round up all the peasant soldiers. Having said that, the demon tribe's vassals are ready for the battle now. Merida is confident that she and her troops will be able to crush the approaching enemy, and the sentiment is shared by the others too, all of whom are itching for a challenging battle. Lord Preston even says that he is the one who is going to shine the most in this upcoming fight, which gets all the demon warriors pumped for a war they will most likely never forget. Seeing this sentiment and energy all around is a bit reassuring to Albert, because he realizes that he may have been worrying about nothing. After all, he has people like Merida and Preston commanding his army, which makes the squad the strongest by far in the kingdom. Our hero also knows the entire layout of the land due to past battles, which will serve as a huge advantage. Upon reading the enemy closer, he figures that they are mostly peasant soldiers, and their commander is nowhere to be seen either, indicating that their morale could be low. Realizing that there are many ways to overcome the current situation, Albert activates his big brain energy and decides the strategy instantly. He tells Lady Merida that she will lead the first squad of 100 members. The second squad of 75 members will be led by Lord Preston, even though he's much stronger than Merida. Maybe Albert's a bit biased because of the night sessions, but that's understandable to fellow men of culture. Rattor gets the third squad of 50 members, and he's pumped because this is going to be his first ever serious battle. Albert will take care of the wagon supply unit, which is a full cavalry unit, meaning there is no real need for peasant soldiers. In the middle of all this planning, Melvin goes up to Albert and says that while he does understand the immense strength of the demon tribe, the difference in numbers is way too much to be taken lightly. Albert understands his concern, so he reassures him by saying he does have a plan in place for this situation. The wagons will only be carrying the bare essentials such as basic food supplies, and then he tells Melvin to load as many spears as he can. Albert leaves Melvin in charge of things while he'll be gone, so our hero is completely locked in. Merida is just excited to be a part of a good battle, because her sword needs to draw some serious blood. On top of that, she has a lot of stress from stamping so many seals, so this is the perfect opportunity for her to let it all out. On that note, she calls out to the Elwyn demon tribe and leads them into battle. With this, the epic battle which will decide Albert's fate begins. Now we see the enemy forces gathering around to launch their surprise attack. They still don't seem to like the fact that demi-humans exist in this world, and are set to end all of them just because of spite. They seem to be extra pumped that they were able to stage this assault due to the demon tribe not paying attention to them. A lot of names are called, leading Albert to comment that there's a lot of worked-up tension on both sides. Either way, he has a new family member by his side, who is none other than Lord Stefan. However, Stefan is not too thrilled with the way things are going, so he asks our hero bluntly what he is going to do about this situation. Albert can sense the passive-aggressive tone, so he tells Stefan to rest assured even though the scene may not look too favorable as of now. As of right now, their forces stand at around 3,000 soldiers, but the enemy troops have 3,000 soldiers in the front and another 2,000 in the rear. If the entire army of 5,000 attacks the base at full force, then one of the castles is sure to fall. Luckily, Albert is aware that most of these soldiers are just peasants who were forced to enlist. There is no proper commander, as the current one, Lord Bedwin, is only an acting deputy. With Orgis not in the picture, Albert is not expecting the leaders of these troops to be making any decisive calls. Our hero already has the upper hand, because he has unleashed the two most ferocious beasts of this kingdom, Preston and Merida. Stefan takes all of this steadily but is still not fully convinced of the battle plan. Either way, Albert tells him to stay prepared with the spears he's brought, as movement is going to start very soon. It's time to take a look at what the opposition is doing, so we go ahead to the rear guard camp of the Alexa Kingdom. A soldier arrives to tell his lord that orders have been given to advance the flank. However, the lord says he will ignore these orders because neither Orgis nor Prime Minister Zahn are here. Marquis Bazan is the commander of the rear guard, and since he used to be a frontier territory lord, there is no way he is going to take orders from someone like Bedwin. He tells his troops that the attack should only be led by the vanguard camp, which already shows a lack of coordination between the troops. Bazan intends to make up for the harvest loss by looting the castles once the battle is over. Plus, he knows that demi-human women are absolute beasts when it comes to acting out their intrusive thoughts, so he would like to be a part of the slave hunt as well. Shoddiness clearly knows no bounds. But then Bazan is told that there is some serious trouble. The Marquis tells his men to just listen to what he had said earlier, but he learns that there is an attack coming from the rear, and it's a lot worse than the Diddy kind. Bazan can't believe what he is hearing, but then we see Merida charging in with full force. Bazan is shocked to see the demon tribe trying something as bold as this, but he has no time to react as he gets overwhelmed by the demon princess's aura. It's too late to act on the surprise attack, but the soldiers are still confused as to why Merida would attack from behind. In order to understand this, we are taken back to the morning meeting where this entire thing was played out by Albert. Preston learns about the rear attack because there are weaker soldiers in that section. Albert says it would be a good way to take advantage of their smaller numbers, and he also intends to use the same warpaths the militia used to loop around the back. All of this sounds good in theory, but the demons wonder if this is more of a cowardly move. Our hero counters that the conditions are extremely against their favor, so it would make more sense to adopt a sneaky approach. After all, his main concern is to limit casualties and gain victory rather than looking grand. He's also looking to be awarded the first spot in the merit section for coming up with such a great plan. Merida likes the sound of this plan, and even Preston can't deny the smartness. Now, it's back to the present where the enemy soldiers gather around their commander Bazan to protect him from the demon princess. As she attacks her opponents, Lady Merida comments on how amazing her husband is, because he is able to use his brains even in the middle of a battle. What follows is a blatant humiliation of the rearguard camp as Merida is able to slice through the soldiers easier than she slices through bread. Bazan is in absolute disbelief over what he is witnessing, and all he can do is hurl names at his opponents like a sore loser. That's the last thing he ever does, as Merida goes on to take his head the very next second to claim victory in one of the easiest assaults she has ever launched. With this, the demon princess completes the first objective, and she orders her troops to raise their flags. There is no need to hold back at all, so she tells her men to hunt down the enemy however they'd like. The enemy knights lose their morale even further after seeing what the Elwyn army did to their rear, and they definitely wouldn't want the same treatment done to their mouths as well, so they start to run for dear life. Nobody's getting paid enough for this kind of embarrassment, but even so, they are barely able to escape as the strikes don't stop landing from Merida and her men. The real danger, though, is from Lord Preston, who simply does not believe in leaving any survivors behind. He charges through multiple enemies at the same time and even tells them they can run away as long as they leave their heads behind. Nobody can stand up to Preston, even if 5 soldiers charge at him at the same time, which is why he is known as the Crimson-Speared Demon. There is no mercy spared for anyone, as the bodies keep piling up, so the remaining soldiers figure they should run towards the vanguard. Meanwhile, Lord Bedwin is told that the rear soldiers have finally begun their advance, although they are clearly not aware as to what is causing the advance. Bedwin also believes that it's about time for the straw-chewing country bumpkins to be of some use, but he is going to regret those words very soon. He notices that the rear guard has a horrible formation, so he wonders what could be the cause. Sure, they are peasant soldiers, but that is not enough of a reason. Anyway, Bedwin decides to lead the attack at full strength, which is what Albert had anticipated earlier. Bedwin hopes to end this match in one fell swoop, but then he turns around to see that the rear guard is not slowing down at all. It's quite strange, because if these soldiers don't stop, then they'll just end up crashing into their own men. However, Bedwin quickly realizes that these men are nothing more than poor sheep being chased by the most vicious of wolves. Both Preston and Merida slash their way through the cowardly knights as they charge right into the vanguard with no fear and full excitement. Now, it's Bedwin's time to be shocked by what's happening as his soldiers tell the rear not to push into them. Otherwise, they will get crushed. Things are not looking good, so Bedwin panics and tells his men to charge straight at their opposition. This was clearly a hasty decision as fear has spread all throughout the enemy camp, and all of this was considered by our hero right from the start. To force the armed troops into attacking blindly was exactly what Albert had brought the spears for, as we see Stefan's men standing still with spears pointed at the enemy soldiers. It's too late for them to react to this, and even as they try to fall back, a lot of them get stabbed by the spears. Albert celebrates the culmination of his plan to create a spear wall, and even Lord Stefan is impressed by what he has achieved. The heavy infantry is ordered to hold the line and continue impaling the enemy, as they don't even need to aim now. The soldiers are brainlessly charging towards them, and soon enough, they realize that they need to turn back, otherwise they will all lose their lives. This leads to tons of confusion, as some of the men are just not listening. The chaos leads to the enemy forces fighting within themselves, thus making a mockery of their entire surprise attack. At first, the knights feel as if there are opposition soldiers here as well, but that is not the case at all. Even Albert himself did not expect to see the enemy making his life so much easier, and then Rattor suddenly pops up from behind. He asks if it's time to do his thing now, but there is no context for us. To understand what he's doing here, we need to go into another flashback. It's the same meeting Albert had with Preston and Merida as well, wherein he had asked Rattor to stay back with him at Stefan's camp. At first, Rattor does not like the sound of it at all because he feels that he needs to be on the field during his first ever battle. Preston gets upset over this and scolds his son for being so rude towards the military council of Albert himself. He tells Rattor that if he wants to be recognized, then he has to start by following his duties before opening his mouth. Rattor says that he is a demon tribe male too, so he does not wish to fall back in battle. Preston does not appreciate this kind of talk, so he says that he will cut down his own son as per the battle customs if he does not stop talking. Lady Merida says to wait until Albert states what he has to say, as he could have a plan for this. That's when our hero says that he is actually giving Rattor the best job over here. Hearing this gets him excited, so he wants to know more. Albert explains that this job comes with a condition, which is to watch the battle closely and find the right time to act. If the timing works out, then Rattor can join the fight during its most decisive moment. Rattor will have full license to go wild at that point, so he happily agrees to this plan. The reason for Albert doing this is because he knows Rattor has high leadership and charisma points on his stat bar. In order to hone these skills, Rattor will need to be trained as a commander who will be able to take charge of a large army. We're back to the present now, as we see Rattor leading his troops into the battlefield at full power. This is the worst possible news for the enemy troops, because they did not expect to see demon troops up ahead when two of the strongest fighters have already been destroying their rears from behind. Rattor has a field day with his attacks, as even he is able to slash through multiple soldiers at the same time. Seeing all of this gets Stefan excited as well, so he tells his troops to advance as well, because he does not want only his reinforcements to hog all the glory. The battle goes on for a while and is quite brutal, but only towards the enemy opposition, as Bidwin watches his soldiers fall one after the other. His men tell him it would be best to escape now, but the problem for them is that there is no exit route available. This is Merida's cue to make a sudden appearance in front of the opposition commander, and she slashes his head off in a microsecond. The demon princess proudly announces that she has taken the head of the army commander, although Rattor would have preferred to be the one to do it. Of course, Merida is way too fast, and the difference in experience shows between them. Stefan happily declares that his army has won the war, with the only thing left being taking in those who surrender as prisoners. That doesn't really take a lot of effort, as the enemy forces give up willingly, hoping to at least be spared with their lives. The entire battle is won in just half a day, when the whole vibe was that our hero was at a disadvantage. Stefan comments that it was all down to the strength of the demon tribe, and he wonders if he could have ever cooked up such a cunning strategy. He confesses that he would not have been able to do what Albert did, and he might have probably even retreated, causing him to lose all his territories. Our hero has managed to win comprehensively with minimal casualties while also causing a severely favorable opposition to sabotage themselves. Stefan declares that Albert the strategist is truly the man who deserves to be called the treasure of wisdom. Lady Merida shows up and asks Stefan what the matter is, but he brushes it off and says that she has gotten herself quite a fine husband. The demon princess knows that very well, and she holds her hubby close to her massive pillows to say how proud she is of him. Everyone is in high spirits right now, but then Stefan adds to Albert's workload by telling him he will need to clean up this huge mess. After some time, Stefan decides to announce the results of the head count competition. Coming in at third place is the newbie Rattor, who claimed the heads of 3 lords and 5 commanders. Coming in at second is Lord Preston, who claimed the heads of 5 lords and 9 commanders, which means the prize winner is Lady Merida, who had the same number of commanders as Preston, but managed to get 1 more lord when she stole Rattor's target of bid-win. Albert is just happy to see the Elwyn family claiming such a big sweep, and he is also surprised that his plan of targeting the enemy commander would go so well. The local lords may have sent reinforcements, but after seeing how things have turned out, they might just get a bit jealous. In order to control this, our hero will probably need to send them some gifts to stay in their good books. Before Albert came into the picture, the demon tribe would never interact with any of the surrounding nobles. It could also have been because the nobles themselves didn't wish to contact such savage beasts. However, cooperation in a crisis will depend heavily on the relationships that have been built beforehand. Since our hero is currently orchestrating everything, he will take care of that particular aspect. Now, Stefan asks Albert how the cleanup is going on, to which he says that most of the work is already done. First of all, the nobles who have been held captive are all under house arrest at the mansion. For the ones who can't pay their way out of this mess, they will be made to work within Albert's empire. The rest will simply be sold as slaves to the mines to generate extra income. All of the seized goods from the enemy have been sold off to the black market traders as well, so Albert definitely knows what's up when it comes to making profits off war. Stefan too is amazed to see how quickly he has been able to work everything out. However, he is just using this as an excuse to make his own life easier, so he decides to leave all the ransom negotiation talks to Albert as well. Suddenly, Merida shows up and holds her hubby close to her pillows once again. She says that it's time to celebrate, so they should crack open their bottles of booze. Our hero does not mind that, but he reminds his wife that her budget will only be 30 gold coins. This is not what the demon princess wanted to hear because she wants to party hard after such an intense battle. Albert simply says that she can use her own allowance if 30 gold coins isn't enough for her. Lady Merida turns to Lord Preston and tries to play the niece card to get him to cover her expenses. Of course, Preston may be the strongest demon on the battlefield, but even he is no exception to the wrath of the scorned wife, in this case, Freya. Merida then turns to Rattor for support, but even he says that his mom controls his salary as he is still not 18 years old. Albert doesn't care much about Merida's desire to be fancy, so he reveals that Stefan has already sent over some barrels of wine to enjoy. Merida now changes her tone completely because she can finally get drunk. Albert wants her to focus more on value, but he'll let it pass because she does deserve her reward. Preston and Rattor also join in on the fun, and the party goes crazy, long into the night. This translated to the shady acts too, as Merida was moving her hips almost as good as Shakira. Albert decided to let Alicia and Irina also join in, and that led to endless explosions for his harem. Albert's back hurts from all the shady exercise, especially after having to use so much of his big brain energy. He figures he will need more babes to keep Merida busy sometimes, but then he is told that there is a problem with the ransom negotiations. Basically, the offer of the wealthier captives has to match the expectations of our hero, and until the messenger delivers the ransom, they are kept as guests. However, if the deadline passes, then they are executed without fail. Since the demon tribes are super strong, the offer price is already quite high. Despite this, there are some poor lords too, such as Liisa von Alco, who is actually a girl. She has decent stats, and since she's 18, she's also safe from Drake. Her territory borders the Ashley territory to the south, and until the previous generation, the Alco family had sided with the Alancia Empire. We learn via a flashback that when the previous lord had passed away, Liisa was the only surviving heir, which caused some unrest. This was why she had to disguise herself as a man to take over the territory. With a seemingly flat-screen TV and no cake, it was not a surprise to see her take over the role so easily. Due to the ongoing disputes, Liisa was sent off to war, and unfortunately, she lost the battle, which is why she is Albert's prisoner now. She acts like a man and tells him to end her, but our hero knows what kind of man she is. Since she is loved by her people and actually has some decent stats, Bro realizes that he can make use of her. He tells Liisa that he will spare her life and put her territory under his empire's protection. This is too good to be true. But then Albert tells her that she will need to become his wife's new babe. Liisa says that she's a girl, but our hero reveals that he's the only man Merida likes to be with. Seriously, it should have been me, not him. Anyway, Merida shows up and she is quite excited to see what Liisa looks like, and she seems to prefer the male clothing on her. It's almost like cosplay, and Merida can't wait to get her hands on Liisa, but Albert tells her that consent is important, which is also what Comic Guzzlers endorses. Now, he tells Liisa that since she is like Jon Snow when it comes to politics, she should accept his proposal as it will benefit everyone. Plus, if she gives birth to his child, then the kid will inherit her territory and become a powerful branch of the Elwyn family. Liisa is surprised to learn that she can be shared between husband and wife, but Albert reassures her that if her child is born via his elephant water, then it will be a branch of the Elwyn family. With the explanations out of the way, Liisa agrees to become Merida's lover girl, and this makes the demon babe very happy. It's Lisa's first time, so she asks Merida to be gentle, but she loves innocent girls even more. Things get super shady, and we learn that Liisa doesn't actually have a flat-screen TV. With her respectable pillows, even Albert wants in on the action, so he goes gentle and then speeds it up. With so many explosions following, it was only natural for Irina and Alicia to join in as well. It's an insane night filled with unspeakable acts, and it only ends in the morning. Liisa is told that Albert is quite a shady man with intrusive thoughts, so she's lucky it only ended when it did, due to it being her first time. Bro tries to set the record straight, but it is of no use, as his harem tells him he is like their creep husband. Anyway, the girls are happy, and so is our hero, who now has yet another one of them to enjoy. In this brutal, unforgiving world, he totally intends to live as per his desires. Now, he gets an alert stating that the enemy he had suspected was the one behind the attack. Even so, Albert finds it hard to believe that a prince could be so stupid that he would continue even after so many violations. Anyway, he wants the investigation to continue. It turns out that our hero is being awarded by the Emperor of the castle alongside Merida, Preston, and Rattor. Albert does not know why he is being given such awards, but then he remembers what Merida said about the Emperor having a soft spot for her. Albert does worry that the Emperor may want to evaluate him, in which case, his harem plan might get exposed. We learn that the current Emperor is only 25 years old, and he is nothing short of a political monster. After all, he has restored a lot of power from his authoritarian reforms. While our hero worries about this, we move to the Orgis mansion, where the idiot prince is upset over the loss. He did send over 5,000 troops, so it makes no sense as to how he lost. However, the truth of the matter is that 80% of the troops have been immobilized. With so many lords captured or slain, not only did Orgis fail to reclaim his 3 territories, he also ended up losing the Alco territory of Slat. The brat prince is shocked to learn that the invaders were the ones who lost their territory, but such is the might of Albert. Orgis lets out his rage on his messenger Zazan, but he needs to accept that he was totally outplayed. Of course, the brat prince will have to take responsibility for this, and it will mess up his succession plans. He then learns that it was the demon tribe who proved to be the deciding factor, with Merida even reclaiming the title of the family's head. Adding to this is the fact that she has married Albert, which further infuriates Orgis, as he already has a bone to pick with our hero. After scolding his own man, Orgis vows to get his revenge. He increases the bounty on Albert by 10 times, because he wants to slay him with his own hands. It will be tough, considering Albert is in a high position now, but Orgis is having none of it. His tantrums won't change the fact that this loss still has to be reported to the king, but the brat prince has other plans. He wants to put all the surviving troops in a detention camp, and he tells his messenger to inform the king that they are still locked in a battle with the Empire. This is a blatant lie, but Orgis just needs some time to figure out his next move. He also doesn't want his brother Goran to learn about this anyhow, but does need more assistance from his supporters. Whatever his issues might be, Orgis is definitely keen on beheading Albert in front of his wife. Now we move to the Alancia Empire's castle and learn that 260 years ago, the very first Demon King built a new nation from scratch. He built his empire in just a single generation, and from this point onwards, the castle was known as the Demon King's Castle. Albert feels that with all the stories he has heard about this Demon King, there's a chance that he too could have been reincarnated into this world, just like our hero. This could explain why his children were made the 4 royal families. His 4 highest-ranking vassals were also called the Great Dukedoms. All 8 of these people were given the right to become the next Demon King, and each of them had 1 vote when it came to electing the successor. This method had to be rock solid to maintain a union between the strong demi-humans. The current emperor had won the last election, which makes him the 10th Demon King. His name is Christ von Shug-Mori, and then we see everyone bowing down to him. He asks them to raise their heads, and from his stats, there's no doubt that he is an aura farmer. Albert can understand why the Empire is so powerful now, but now it's time for Christ to speak. He congratulates our hero on his recent victory, and also blesses his marriage with Merida. Bro is relieved that Christ accepts him, but Merida acts goofy and tells her brother not to be so formal. Albert is understandably surprised, judging by the look on his face. Preston also says that Christ is way too soft on Merida, especially considering how much trouble he gave him regarding arranging guards for her during her exile. Now, Rattor says that he wants to be assessed fairly as he believes he did better than his dad in the recent fight. However, Christ reminds everyone that this is an official audience. Albert says that he looks quite scary when he's serious, but then again, with so many people watching, it is only natural for a king. Albert bows down to Christ and apologizes for the behavior of the demon tribe. Merida asks her husband why he is bowing to her brother, but then Christ says that he is simply trying to offer his head in place of hers for such rude behavior. Albert feels that the Demon King is really angry now, but then Christ says psych because he was just kidding. He only wanted to see how his sister's lover boy would react in such an instance. But he does admit that Albert is a fine man. The demon girl agrees, but our hero has no idea what's going on. Christ says that he's so used to such informal behavior from Merida that he would actually get shocked if she behaved properly with him for a change. The demon girl is offended, as she says she can be a lady when she wants to, but then her brother reminds her of the time she almost assassinated a proposed fiancé. She reasons that the man looked like a pig, and she is very picky when choosing men. Preston then jokes that it was this act that led him to become the family head, which meant he couldn't fight in the wars for 2 whole years. Christ commends him for doing a good job, and he also tells him that he can go crazy now in the service of Merida. Preston is fine with that, and then Christ tells Rattor that his achievements were also impressive, which is why he is giving him a treasured sword, which can be used to cut through even rocks. Rattor is grateful for this, and now it's time for Albert. The Demon King can't believe that there is a man who could tame Merida, and Preston adds that even Christ himself sometimes has a hard time keeping her in check. Christ adds that our hero's tactics were giving big brain energy, and even Stefan praised him, which is rare to see. Of course, Albert has to act humble, but he is glad that the Demon King is a kind, older brother sort of ruler. However, now Christ says that it's time to get down to the main point, and the atmosphere becomes tense. He seems to know about Albert enjoying multiple babes apart from Merida, with Liisa being one of them. Albert says that he is totally devoted to Merida, but Christ knows what kind of man he is, as he has been watching the videos on Comic Guzzlers. The Demon King does not like that our hero is trying to lie to him, so he brings out his sword. Merida now says that the women are actually for her, and she only lends them to Albert. This does not make any difference to Christ, who is now acting like a villain. Albert worries that his head and body are going to go two separate ways, but then Merida comes to his defense. She says that her Oni-san will have to go through her first, but Christ asks if she wishes to be exiled again. Albert puts his mind to the test and thinks about what he can say to get out of this mess. That's when Bro activates Chad mode and tells Christ that if he ends him, then the conquest of Alexa will be set back by 50 years. He explains that if he controls the strongest battle group of the Elwyn Empire, then he will definitely offer new territories to the Demon King. More importantly, even if Christ is the emperor, he has no say in the freaky affairs between a husband and wife. Christ asks Albert if he dares to defy him, so now our hero worries if he overstepped his bounds. Suddenly, Christ does an Uno reverse on his mood and starts smiling. He likes what Albert said and admits he has no right to interfere in others' elephants and kitties. Plus, he would never end the man who is able to keep Merida on a leash. He just wanted to hear Albert's true words, but this is a pretty messed up way to do so. Now, the Demon King goes out of pocket and asks Merida to hand over Albert to him for 50,000 imperial gold coins. Merida hugs her lover boy and scolds her brother for bullying Albert just to get back at her. However, Christ says that he actually wants to make our hero a direct vassal of his. Albert would normally consider an offer like this, but serving Christ looks a lot more stressful than being with Merida. Bro says that he is actually Merida's vassal, so for him to become one directly under the emperor would not go down well with the other vassals and advisors. This is why it would be best not to cause an internal battle, which Christ agrees with. Albert goes on to say that even without such a position, as long as the Demon King values Merida, his abilities will serve the empire well. Merida also takes some credit for Albert's rise to the top, which cannot be denied. Christ is now satisfied with what he has seen, so he tells Albert to become the empire and his strength. This is good news, so our hero vows to serve the Demon King. Christ also admits that he only threatened Albert to tease Merida, and he can have as many women as he wants. Of course, the important thing is to treat all these women well, which is the true way for men of culture. Albert is glad that he stood up for himself, and there's a grand party held by the Demon King after this. Later on in the night, Merida lets out her own joy by engaging in an intense session with Albert. 2 weeks later, we move back to the Ashley Castle where Albert is given the reports for when he was absent. Everything seems to be fine, apart from the Alco territory. The farmers who fled the kingdom's heavy taxes seem to have defeated the remaining soldiers and formed groups of bandits. This is the outcome of war, but our hero doesn't care because he has been looking for some labor too. It's basically like a recruitment drive for him, so now we move to the battlefield. Albert gathers up his army and asks them if they have understood the assignment. Merida says that this is a contest to see how many defeated soldiers they can finish off, but that's not really the assignment. Albert says he will increase Merida's seals to stamp as a punishment, and she gets worried. Our hero repeats that the one who brings back the most people alive will be the winner. Preston asks if it's fine for them to be missing an arm or a leg, but Albert says that will attract a penalty. Rattor seems to like this plan, and he wants to be the vanguard. Albert reminds him to let the younger vassals also get in on the action, and he should keep an eye on them. Merida would much rather prefer ending all her enemies, but this is not Attack on Titan. Albert says once again that these people will be needed as labor for his construction projects, which Merida finds even scarier than death. There are lots of things that Albert wants to get done, and he will even pay these laborers wages once they are done serving their sentences. Rattor says that using their normal weapons won't guarantee any survivors, so it's better to use sticks. Naturally, Merida grabs the biggest log and heads out for her mission. She and Rattor join forces, and with their valor, nobody can beat them. Albert has already gained a lot of new territories, so he will need labor to develop them further. Bro's plan is moving along nicely, and he wants as many achievements as he can get to prove his worth to the demon tribe. For now, he has to simply persuade some refugees, so he gets to work. 9. All the enemy forces are taken captive, and Albert tells them they are in no position to refuse him. These soldiers are all skinny, so he tells them to eat till they can't eat anymore, as he will need their strength. The rebels are glad because they haven't eaten anything proper in over a week. To be given food from the enemy is quite suspicious, but they enjoy the meal, and Albert says he has a lot more where that came from. Now that the prisoners have tasted his food, he knows that they will never be able to leave this for Alexa. He waits for their bellies to be full, and then offers some clean clothes too. Anyone refusing to wear them will be struck down, but they are quite happy to be getting such nice material. After they are dressed, our hero tells them they can never Alexa and they should live desperately within his domain. The rebels don't want to be slaves, but with such good food and clothing, it does seem like the better choice. Albert needs just one last push, so he tells everyone that the kingdom of Alexa never gave them a chance to survive despite being their homeland. However, the Elwyn family is different, as the rebels will not have to pay any taxes for 3 whole years. During this time, food, clothing, and farming tools will be given to them, along with fertile agricultural land. Bro even says that if he fails to provide the receipts, then they can have his head. The rebels don't know if they should trust the words of a noble, but Albert says that everyone who agrees to be his slave will be given binding documents. The rebels are shocked that he is making it legal with a contract, so they all give in and become his slaves. They vow never to go back to Alexa, so Albert welcomes them all. It will not be easy, but it has to work out in the long run. Now, our hero states that he has to make waterways around the arable land, because the revenue generated from this farming will be high. After all, having the rebels start something from scratch is a much better idea than sending them to an existing settlement. Therefore, Albert's recruitment drive was nothing short of a huge success. Now, it's time for the battle report, and it's quite a surprise to see Rattor leading the way with 245 people captured and only 45 of them ended. Preston comes in next with 139 people, and last is Merida with 125 people. These are all good numbers, and Albert is impressed by Rattor, who was able to lead the younger demons properly. Naturally, Preston and Merida end too many people, so it would indeed be better for Rattor to get the vanguard for the next battle. Now, it's time for the Waterway, which has 540 people, and the Pioneer Village Group, which has 568 people. All taxes are to be waived off for 3 years, but only for the ones who have registered. Nobody's getting fired, but these people do have a monumental task ahead. All that Albert can think of is the return on investment, which should be massive. As a matter of fact, he feels that these rebels will be the ones making the most money for him once things work out. Now, we move back to the Orgis residence, where the brat prince is annoyed to see Zazan again. The messenger says that the reorganization of Tiana is proving to be quite difficult, but Orgis says that's his headache. Zazan says he has brought someone along to address this issue, and his name is Lord Bleach Oxner. He is a representative of the Hero's Sword, which is a branch of the church that worships the god Udal. Bleach starts his sucking up by saying it is a blessing to be in the presence of Orgis. Zazan says that Bleach has been providing a lot of assistance from behind the scenes, but Orgis wants to know how this will help him. The Brat Prince is shown a map which displays the Hero's Swords groups being located closely to the Alco and Ashley territories. Bleach wants to organize the Mountains tribes for the Second Holy War, which is why he needs some assistance from Orgis. The Brat Prince is already in a position that sucks, so he asks Bleach to increase his followers to better his chances of winning the Holy War. However, Bleach says that it is impossible to recruit more followers from the general population. Orgis mocks his father for supporting such a weak, insignificant man, but he might as well make some use of him now. He confirms that Bleach needs people for the mountain tribes as he's running out of followers, to which he says that they can have around 1,500 soldiers ready to attack on their command. Orgis figures he can use these men to attack Albert and his troops, and he has to make sure that the Ashley territory is attacked before they can ally with Stefan's Margrave territory. It's not a bad idea at all, but the bald Bleach knows that nothing in this world is free. This is why he offers a couple of curvy babes to Orgis as a token of his appreciation. Orgis accepts the gift and tells Zazan to organize his men to help the mountain tribe. The Brat Prince will leave the reorganization of Tiana to Lord Brolish, so he wants Zazan to stay here and assist him with politics. Both Zazan and Bleach know what to do next, so Orgis decides to take a break by enjoying his shady new gifts. Once he is done with them, he goes to check up on his father. He does not seem to be doing well, but he does ask Orgis if he is doing his duties properly. The Brat Prince says that all is well, but then his brother Goran shows up and reveals the humiliating defeat his troops had just suffered. On top of that, in the Tiana territory, the enemy has gathered the defeated soldiers and made them their own, which is bad news. All the responsibility falls on Orgis, who was the fool that forced everyone into this battle. Orgis has to be deceptive, so he tells Goran that the troops are still fighting right now. Goran asks him once again for confirmation, and he lies once again to save his face. Orgis maintains that the fight is still on to get back the 3 territories they lost, and he scolds Goran for receiving wrong information. On that note, he asks his brother to get out of the room, and then he tells his father that Goran has fallen victim to the schemes of the enemy's misinformation. He states that the kingdom's army will not suffer as long as he is in command, so his father should just focus on his recovery. Of course, nobody should trust someone like Orgis, so the king asks once again if Goran's information is not true. Orgis is nervous, but he states that some of the troops have come back to Tiana for rest and recovery. This led the opposition to believe that they have retreated, which is why the rumors are flying around. The king is not impressed, so he tells Orgis that he has to keep his word about the army not being defeated. It's hilarious, because the Brat Prince broke his word before even giving it. The king says that this battle will prove whether Orgis is strong enough to rule after him, so the Brat Prince swears it on his name and leaves. The only thing that's clear to us now is that Orgis is cooked, but he tells his guards not to let Goran into his father's bedroom under any circumstances. Now we move to the sensible Goran, who was able to spot the lies by the look on his brother's face. He is now certain that the Alexa troops have been beaten by the Demon Tribe army, and then we learn that Albert had already sent him a letter about it. This is now confirmed to be true, and then Goran's advisor adds that several nobles from the Zyson territory are also not accounted for. Goran wants to hold his brat brother accountable for this since he was the cause of it in the first place, but with their dad being bedridden, and Orgis being put in charge, there is not a lot that Goran can do. His advisor says that now would be the perfect time to increase their allies, because Goran's way of speaking seems to get him in everyone's good books. With more nobles joining their side, they should not rock the boat too much because of Orgis and his crazy behavior. Goran laments the fact that he was supposed to just be a backup for Orgis in case he failed, but now he will have to clean up the whole mess. Now, he receives another letter from our hero, so he is keen to see what it is about. The letter states that Goran should not allow anyone from the hero's sword to get close, which shows just how far ahead Albert is thinking. Goran's advisor says that the bald leader Bleach is trying to start the Second Holy War. We then learn that Bleach is the same fool who sent a majority of his believers to their deaths in the First Holy War. A lot of people also believe that the hero's sword is more corrupt than their own temples, which says a lot about the state of things in any universe. Goran is not at all happy about having to deal with this problem, but he is just a chill guy, so he thinks calmly. It would definitely be wise to avoid the hero's sword if they want to increase their allies, so he gets working immediately. Goran tells his advisor to get in touch with any of their allies who are close to the hero's sword. He wants these allies to cut all their ties immediately, which the advisor agrees with. Moving forward, Goran wants to have a good relationship with Albert, which is a smart decision for sure. He wants his advisor to gather any information which may be of use to our hero as well, so the plot is really moving faster than the Flash. Goran feels that it would have been much better if he had met Albert a bit sooner, because with his amazing knowledge and skills, he would have been able to break free of his struggles ascending to the throne. Goran is now certain that his brother has committed yet another foolish act, but it is no surprise to him at this point. If Orgis keeps pushing talented people away from their kingdom and towards the enemy, then it will most definitely lead to a steady decline for the Alexa kingdom. Now, we move to the Ashley Castle, where Merida is once again causing a fuss because she does not want to work right now. She is sad, as she just wants to keep having fun with everyone, but life is not so easy. Alicia shows up and reminds the Demon Queen that she did promise Albert to do some proper work as long as he gave her 3 explosions. From her memory, Merida actually had 6 explosions, so she should be doing double work. The Demon Queen says that she just got caught up in the moment yesterday, and she is in no mood to do any work. Liisa also says that she needs some help, so Merida really needs to get up. Albert has had enough, so he tells his wife that if she throws a tantrum, then Alicia will have to punish her. The maid girl's eyes light up, so it looks like something naughty is about to happen. What kind of punishment is going to be given to Merida? More importantly, how are Albert and Goran going to work together to get rid of Orgis? There are lots of important plot points to uncover, but unfortunately, we have reached the end of today's video. Merida may be acting shy, but Alicia decides to go for her horn, and it makes her feel some kind of way. She tells her to stay away from the horns, but it's too late now. Irina is then told by Albert to join in on the fun, so she complies immediately. Merida says that 2 babes at the same time will be too much for her, but then Albert spices it up some more by telling Liisa she still hasn't given her mistress her morning kiss yet. She goes ahead with her duty, and then Merida gives in to her intrusive thoughts. Now Albert decides to take the lead, and his elephant does the rest. Tons of unspeakable acts follow, and it looks like Merida is getting one explosion after the other. Now, we move to the next day, because the plot also needs to move forward. Irina talks to him about the Margie Trading Company, because she wants to confirm if he wants her to handle all of its operations. Albert says yes, because he knows Irina has strong business ideas. He adds that the profits from the trading company will be handled separately from the main house's profits. He intends on using the company profits to start his own intelligence agency, because he misses the good old days of James Bond. Irina is impressed, because she did notice some unaccounted funds, which were actually being used for the intelligence agency. Alicia asks if all the finance for intelligence will now be given to Irina, and Albert says yes. However, when it comes to taking care of Goran and his supporters, our hero will be the man. Alicia seems to get the message, and she spells it out to our audience as well, but the men of culture at Comic Guzzlers don't need extra exposition. Now, we are told that the head of the secret intelligence company will be Alicia, and the funding will be at Liisa's discretion, although Irina will have final say in finances. However, the expenses that will be required to assist the second Prince Goran and his people will be on a much larger scale, so Albert will personally be attending to it. Irina is on board with this plan, and she is looking forward to working with Alicia in areas other than the bedroom. The maid girl also feels the same way. Now, we see the Ashley Castle after the new year. Albert clears his throat before asking the Elwyn family what their motto is. Everyone says loudly that they will think before they act. Our hero is pleased to hear this, and he says that their work for the new year can finally begin. He tells his wife to give the instructions to all their vassals, and she proudly says that this year, they are going to engaging in many battles, after which they shall take their enemies' heads. Everyone cheers for her, but Albert says that there are no signs of any wars right now. Merida makes a goofy face and says that she wants to go to war right now. She even says that if her husband truly loved her, then he would make sure to arrange for a war or 2. He smiles and tells her that there are none right now, so she should just focus on training. This also makes the Demon Queen happy, because she loves training. To her, this means 5-day march with no supplies. She intends to practice a forced break into the enemy's controlled territory. Rattor is excited because he can finally lead his own troops, and Preston adds that they will assume the roles of instructors now. He tells everyone to follow him, and the troops do as he says. Merida is ready to join in on the fun, but then Albert tells her to wait a minute. He says that his wife can only leave after she has completed her duties as the head of the house. She becomes upset and asks Albert why he is so strict with her, but that's just the way life goes sometimes. Merida looks visibly sad as she stamps a lot of papers, so she clearly is not made for the standard 9 to 5. Albert now turns to the civil officials and reminds them to do their duties too, and they all agree in unison. A few days later, Irina compiles a list of merchants in the city for Albert to review. He notices that there is a suspiciously large amount of blacksmiths and weapons shops. This is because the demon tribe spends a lot of money on weapons, but the problem is that they rely too heavily on imported items. Albert suggests expediting the development of the mines to counter this issue, and Irina agrees. After all, if they can obtain iron cheaply enough, then our hero would like to make some flintlock rifles. Irina now comes up with the strategy to increase the population, which is something Albert's home country of Japan seriously needs right now. These include measures like support for kids, childbirth funding, and early marriage incentives. It will cost a lot, but it is important to make sure the population secures its future. The hidden assets of the village chiefs will also get taxed from this year onwards. So Albert proposes a reduction in tax for larger families. If you pay lesser taxes for more children, anyone would want to increase their families. Albert believes in this because even he wants to have enough kids with his harem of wives to build his own football team. Bro is already scoring more than Ronaldo and Messi thanks to his Riz. But now it's time to check out the Alco-Slat territory. It's a small town with around 700 residents, and they have primarily been trading in crops, hides, and timber. This place is close to the main highway leading to Alexa, so merchants also pass through and pay the market price for their goods. Albert has identified fertile farmland to the north of Slat, so he can use that to encourage population growth and development. Irina adds that since this was once the Empire's territory, the locals are quite favorable towards our hero. Albert plans to have his child inherit this place, so he has to plan for it accordingly. This is why he tells Irina to continue providing the territory with food supplies. Liisa is fine with this, as she was the previous ruler, and she expresses her thanks to Merida. The demon queen feels awkward, so she says there's no need for thanks. And then Albert says that the demon lord has entrusted him with the affairs of the Alco family. Of course, Albert can't help but worry about how anxious the demon lord really is. But going by the amount of fame Liisa has in Slat, he cannot oust her, because that would lead to a rebellion. This is why it's important for Liisa to also gain some fame in the military. So everything looks good on paper. Now, from Alexa, we learn that Prince Goran has received Bro's correspondence and will continue to provide support. Another report says that mountain people have been coming and going from the Slat territory recently. Glimpses of people connected to the hero's sword have also been mentioned. Irina asks if they should respond to this, but Albert needs to use his big brain energy for a bit. He tells her that they should first increase their intelligence on these mountain people, which is a fair point. Liisa asks if these mountain people are looking to attack the Empire soon, and our hero says that from what he is seeing, it could be possible. Liisa is surprised to hear this, because the mountain people had actually said they were neutral. They are not the type to become traitors and then side with another nation. Albert agrees, but the data does show that the winds are changing. We learn that these mountain people used to live in the Empire, but then they shifted to the mountains and adapted to a rougher lifestyle. Some of them even own farmland and trade wares such as meat, fur, and wild plants. They also happen to deal in information trade at the right price, if you catch my drift. The mountain people are certainly valuable to the local lords, as they are trained in the roughest of conditions, and can also disguise themselves with illusions. They are basically the closest we have to ninjas in this world. Some of the lords even sent punitive forces to go deal with the mountain people, but they were no match for the terrains and their tactics. So it was in vain. Albert tells us that the mountain people used to be independent, but that seems to be changing now. Of course, he does tell Liisa that she can chill, because he is taking the necessary precautions. Hearing it from Albert does sound reassuring, and then Merida shows up to say that if anyone dares to mess with her hubby, then she will destroy the mountain people instantly. Albert smiles and tells her only to use violence as a last resort. Now, Irina is told to arrange an inspection of the Slat territory, and she says that one is already arranged, so it's all on his word. Bro is impressed by how quickly Irina can get things done, and then he asks Merida if she will be joining him. She says that she definitely wants to come, but we need to know which meaning she is referring to. Basically, she wishes to come along so that she can wipe out any suspicious people they come across during their inspection. As violent as she might be, Marids is not spared from any of her other work at all, so she naturally says this sucks. She even says that her husband is the one who is being a real demon to her. Bro simply says he will make it up to her in the night time, so she says that Irina will also have to come, because she always likes a party. She says yes, which makes the demon queen happy, and then Alikai says that she too will be there because she is Merida's attendant. This actually makes Merida worry, because with Alicia there, she will not be able to activate Diddler mode. Anyway, Albert says they should hurry up and get done with the inspection because they will take 2 days to reach Slat. Now, the team sets off on their journey, and after some time, they reach Lisa's mansion. Merida says that it's compact and cute, just like Liisa, and she is glad that the Demon Queen likes it. After all, she too wants to become as strong as Merida. Everyone in the area goes crazy for Liisa, meaning her popularity is off the charts. Even K-pop stars don't get such stans. But this is because everyone was told that Liisa did not give in to her captors and managed to save Alco, thus becoming a brave hero in the process. Plus, everyone still believes that she is a man, so we are witnessing true politics. Liisa tells her fans that she has to attend to Lady Merida today, and Albert comments that she can definitely behave like a handsome man in public, even though she is a girly girl in the bedroom. Now, we learn that the group spends several days looking into the concerns of the citizens. Along the way, Merida has an encounter with a bear, whom she finishes off with one punch, like Saitama. Overall, the inspection is a success, so all is well. Back at the Slat Castle, Merida seems upset that they are already going back home tomorrow. She could not get more than one fight, and she wants some more violence. Once again, our hero smiles and says that he did tell Merida this was just going to be an inspection. There won't be any battles for a while now, so the Demon Queen says that if she wants a fight, she'll have to find one herself. Suddenly, she pulls out her sword and launches an attack because there seems to be an imposter among us. A shady character appears, and from his outfit, we can assume that he is one of the mountain people. Albert tells Alicia and the girls to stand back, as he takes out his own blade, and they decide to call for the guards. The ninja says that he did not expect the ceiling to come down around him, so he says that Merida does live up to her reputation. Albert only needs one look at this person to figure out that he is a mountain man, but Merida says that it is disgraceful to spy on a lady in her bedroom. She also states that this man will not be able to get out of here in one piece, but he seems unbothered. He says that he has a great interest in the Empire's strongest warrior and the treasured gem of wisdom, but Albert cuts to the chase. He openly says that the man is from the mountains, but before he can complete his sentence, he is cut off by the villain. He says that he will withdraw for now, but he will be back like the Terminator. Merida has no intention to let him escape, but Albert orders her to take him alive. She gets upset, so she holds back on her attack, thus sparing the ninja. She tells him he's lucky that her husband has ordered for him not to be ended, and then she lands a soft blow onto his face. With that strike, Merida takes off half of his mask, and he says that she should have aimed a little more to the right. The man's face is not that of a normal human's, so Albert wonders if he is like a beast man or something. However, the ninja disappears and says that he shall be taking his leave. Merida gets angry because her opponent threw a flash orb at her, so it's almost as if she got psyched. Suddenly, an item the ninja leaves behind lets out a smoke screen, rendering Albert and the others unable to see. He tells Merida to hold off on any pursuit, and this only makes her angrier at the beast man. Now, the guards show up, late as always, and Liisa tells them to scout the grounds for an intruder. The search parties should extend into the town too, and Merida is clearly bent on getting her revenge. Albert says that it would be better to stay here until they find out more about this mystery intruder. He already seems to have an idea as to who he might be working for, so he can't afford to have him ended, as it would mess up his plans. He asks Liisa to prepare another room for him and his gang, after which 3 more days pass by. We see Alicia, who tells her master that the identity of the intruder has been revealed. He is named Warid, and he is the chief of the Goshute tribe who are a part of the mountain people. Albert is surprised to learn that he is a chief, and it turns out that Warid is a werewolf beastman. Liisa panics even further because Warid's tribe is the closest to the Slat territory. She was under the impression that they were on good terms with them, but if that's the case, she should at least know what Warid looks like. Albert wants to know why he targeted Merida, because he could not sense any evil intent from him. He concludes that Warid may have just come to the castle to make an observation, or gather information which may come in handy. Liisa is confused, so Albert explains that perhaps Warid wants to align himself with the Alco family. However, due to the war, it may not be possible for him on an official basis. Albert is also certain that Warid could be facing a problem related to the hero's sword. Alicia adds that recently, someone from the hero's sword cult did come to Warid's tribe and tried to forcefully recruit them. This made Warid activate beast mode, and he beat up the envoy quite badly before sending him away. We learn that the hero's sword cult has been spreading rapidly amongst the mountain people, so the Goshute tribe could be struggling due to their refusal. Basically, the cult is trying its best to take over the mountain people, and our hero sees this as an opportunity to bring these same people over to his side. He even imagines they will make contact with him soon, and at that very moment, an attendant comes in asking for Liisa and Albert. It turns out that an envoy from the Goshute tribe is here, and the women praise their lord for his sharp brain. He can already predict that he will get invited to their village, so he asks for the envoy to be sent his way. His prediction turns out to be correct, so Irina is left in charge of all admin duties, while the others head towards the mountain territory. We now move to the eastern mountains and can see that Merida is carrying Alicia. It's not out of concern for her health though, as she seems to be holding on to some tight cake. The Demon Queen denies doing this on purpose, but she goes on to explain some pretty shady stuff which makes Alicia blush. She says that Merida should stop grabbing her cake, but she says that her hands have a mind of their own. She is a true woman of culture, but Albert tells his babes to behave themselves now, because they are almost there. Warid is standing right at the entrance, and he welcomes the group to his tribe, after which he makes his introduction. Merida wants to challenge Warid once more, but she has heard that there are some super curvy women in the mountain tribes, so she has to behave herself. She tells Warid that as compensation for letting him off after the surprise appearance in Slat, she will be taking one of his ladies as her slave girl. Albert tells his wife that they have come here to resolve problems, not add to them. Warid seems to like her attitude though, as he calls her a bold one. He then summons all his ninjas and asks what she would have done if he had planned to assassinate everyone here. Merida surprisingly yawns and tells our hero that Warid is trying to test her patience. She does not believe that any of these people wants to attack her, because they have no murderous intent at all. Warid smiles, because he did not expect it to be that obvious. Merida then says that the least he can do is offer them some drinks. So we are taken to a hall, although the mountain men say that their booze is not the best. Regardless, everyone is seated, and Merida does her best to get wasted. Alicia keeps serving her, and she enjoys the drinks, even though she can sense that they are about to go bad soon. Warid says that the booze is made using fruit that can only be found in these mountains. He then states that the Goshut tribe has been living here way before the empire was formed. Since they are beast folk, they have honed their skills in stealth, agility, and assassination, which is why they can be considered as ninjas. Albert says that if he is able to hire them, then his intelligence department will get a massive boost. He can even diversify and expand his teams to other countries, because judging from Warid's skills, he could easily lead the combat forces of the intelligence unit. Bro really wants these people on his side, so he asks Warid if this is some kind of secret negotiation. The Beast Man says that he is not really sure, because he is aware of our hero's superintelligence. Albert deduces that Warid does not want to break the unwritten rules of his tribe. Warid says that the mountain people have never taken anyone's side, and have always remained neutral. However, the balance is beginning to crumble now. Albert says this is a great chance for him to unite the mountain people, and the Elwyn family is ready to support him too. This may sound good, but Warid reminds our hero of the current situation. His own people have betrayed his tribe, and are calling them heretics too. Since his folks are in danger, he is in no mood to hear fairy tales. Suddenly, Merida speaks like a sober woman and tells Warid that he is misjudging her husband's big brain energy. He already has the whole plan mapped out in his head, so the only thing left to do is the execution. Warid is worried because if he aligns with the Elwyn family, then the neutrality of his tribe will be gone. Albert explains to him that everyone has a public facade and a hidden face. He knows the mountain people are no different, so Warid asks if there is a way to do this while also maintaining a neutral look. It's time to do some dirty business, but first, Albert wants to confirm something. Warid is an open book at this point, so he asks if all of this drama is happening because of the sword of the hero cult. Warid says yes, as he thinks back to how he drove out the annoying representative from the cult earlier. This made the cult leader call the Goshut tribe heretics, and surprisingly, all the other tribes went along with it. This means that Warid's people have been ostracized, and are not even allowed to hunt in the forests anymore. They are running out of food, so their only options are to either abandon their own settlement, or fight with someone else's for their supplies. Warid then admits that all he has to serve is alcohol, and Merida did guess this, because she saw that all of the beast folk looked surprisingly starved. Warid is told that he can come to the Slat territory and stock up on provisions, and Liisa will ensure it happens. Warid can't believe this, but she says this can be like a payment for his cooperation. Bro is out of options, so he has no other choice but to accept this bribe, and become an ally of Albert's. Our hero goes on to reveal his plan to Warid, and he is shocked to see how much of a genius Albert really is. He is happy to say that his tribe will be out of its predicament thanks to Albert's plan, and it will unite all the mountain people too. Of course, Bro has a backup plan too, in case of a failure, wherein he will provide fertile land to the Goshut tribe. However, Warid says that they will definitely succeed, and failure is not an option. When the plan succeeds, Warid will become the main representative of the mountain people, so he will bestow countless gifts upon Albert, along with booze. Merida is looking forward to that, but she also wants some babes. With everything in place, the planning to destroy the sword of the hero cult officially begins. What exactly is our hero's plan here? How does he intend to finish off this cult? He'll need to do a good job, otherwise it will all be for nothing. And where's that brat Orgis? Doesn't he need to be dealt with as well? The story is building up nicely, but unfortunately we have come to an end in today's video. Like, share, and subscribe if you're glad to see Albert back in action with the likes of Merida, Alicia, and Irina. There's still quite a bit left in the story, so give this video some love if you want me to add another few chapters to the next part. Okay then, I'll see you in the next one.